Howdy everybody, Steve here, KM9G. In the last video, we showed you what Winlink was all about. In this video, we're going to get you your Winlink email address and send you your first email. Well, you're going to send it to yourself, but stick around because it's going to make maybe a little bit more sense by the time we're done. I don't know. This is pretty complicated stuff, but we're trying to break it down into a couple of easy steps and get you on the right path to get you there. Let's go. So you would think that you would go to the Winlink website and you would sign up for an account, but I don't see a sign up here at all. I don't, yeah, that's okay. I looked harder than that, but I was just, being dramatic for effect. If you click on my account, the first thing it says is Winlink accounts are created with a client program. You cannot create an account here. So I guess that means we need a client program. So let's look at user programs. And this is where it starts to get a little complicated. I talked about this a little bit in the last video. If you didn't see it, linked up at the top there for you. There are all these different programs, and if you scroll down, they all run on different operating systems. But where do you go just to do it easy? So we're going to do it on Windows today. Y'all know how to love Windows, and that would be Winlink Express for Windows. So download Winlink Express, and I'm going to save it in my downloads folder. Remember where you saved it, and it downloads pretty quick. Oh, it's a zip file. Okay. This is a zip file, and if you double click on it, it looks just like a folder. And sometimes you can run these things and sometimes you can't. We're going to try and run this right out of the zip file. So it says Windows has protected your PC, and this is because the Winlink developers didn't pay Microsoft's extortion fee to bypass this message. So we click more info, and then it says that thing that you tried to run was published by an unknown publisher, which we already knew because they didn't pay the fee to be noticed as a publisher. We're just going to click run anyway. Thousands of hams have gone down this path before and they're not dead yet, so it's okay. Yes, I want to run this on my computer 3 times now, and it wants to know where to install it. This is fine. This is Windows stuff. We're just going to click next, next, create a desktop shortcut because I'm lazy, next, and then install. Kind of your typical Windows install stuff. And we'll close that window in the background, and we can hide the web browser. And then it wants us to launch. But if you don't click that, you can find it under Winlink Express, or you can find it in the Start menu, recently added as Winlink Express, or you can type in Winlink to have it pop up that way. There's all kinds of different ways you can get to there. But since we're here and it wants to launch it, I'm going to go ahead and launch it. And since it is unconfigured, the first thing it wants to do is configure itself. So I'm going to type in my call sign. I already have one, but if you don't, then type in your call sign and just go for it. So remember how I was telling you before that you need to use the software to create an account because you can't create an account on the website, and when you go to the software, you get this screen. This screen is where you type in your account, but you don't have one to type in. So this is where it gets a little confusing. This is where I'm here to help you get it all sorted out. So we put in a call sign. I've already got mine configured, so I got to put in a fake call sign. I'm going to do F4KE as my call sign. Right? So if I hit update, it says you must enter a password. What is your password? Okay. I get it because I understand how this works, but as a new person, you don't understand how this works because you're new. So what you do is you type in any old password you want. And then you fill out the rest of this form with your information, including your password recovery info. This is important. And my computer just did that little hourglass thing, so maybe it went to the back end of the system and created this account while I did that. But maybe not. So fill out all of this information, and then we go from there. So now I have all of my information filled out, including my actual password. You just typed in gibberish, whatever it is you wanted it to be. That is what it currently is, because you just said it. You come down here and there is this spot for a grid square. I'll show you a real quick trick on getting your grid square. If you go to this website and there is a link in the description down below, you can convert your address into a grid square. So we do Benson, Arizona, which is where I am currently sitting as I film this video, and I hit submit. And she comes back and tells me DM41UX is my grid square. So it's just that easy. You don't need to type in your entire address. The more of your address you type in, the more precise it might get. Grid squares are minimum 4 to get you into a great big square of like most of your county. Work with me on the analogy. And then as you add more and more and more letters out the end here, it gets closer and closer and closer and closer to the actual physical coordinates on the globe there. So that website is linked in the description down below for you. And then my password recovery email is right there. It is important to set your password recovery email. If you don't, then you can't ever recover your password without going into the forums and asking, and then you have to, wear the hat of shame for a while. And from there, we just hit update. Your grid square is in the Eastern Hemisphere. Is that correct? Sure. You know where your grid square is. Type in your own grid square. And I have not downloaded the Winlink forms, so it has popped up this box here to ask me if I want to do it. So I'm going to do it. And the forms have been updated. That was pretty quick, actually. Winlink Express is made possible through the Amateur Radio Safety Foundation, Inc. Your registration of Winlink Express and support for the ARSF makes the Winlink system possible. So you can type in your registration key, and the box disappears automatically if you wait too long, or you can go and do it later, which is what we're going to do. And we're going to do this without radio because we're trying just to get the task done. And then in a future video, we will play with the radio type stuff. So this program looks a lot like an email program. You have your inbox, you have your outbox, you have your sent, you have read email, etc., etc., etc. At the top here, we have different call signs, and you can add a new call sign. We have the settings box, which is the one that we were just on. So if you missed filling out something, then you have the opportunity to fill out some things. You can change your fonts, you can change your color themes, you can set up GPS position reports, you can do all kinds of stuff. Amateur radio is a hobby all about experimentation and exploration, and I recommend that you sit down and just play with these. Click on every one of these little options and have a blast. Just make a note of what you did so you can undo it, and make a note of what it did when you did do it. If we go over to message, you can send messages, you can reply to messages, all the standard stuff you'd expect from an email program, because that's what this is. You can select a message, I don't have any to select, and click move to. Since I don't have any to select, it's complaining. If you had a message selected, you could delete it. Again, I don't have a message selected. Or you can open a session. This open session is actually a button, and it opens up the session that is in this drop-down list. And if we drop down this list, there is a ton of these things here. Telnet, Packet, Pactor. We'll go over a bunch of these in future videos under a bunch of different radios and a bunch of different operating systems and all kinds of stuff, because I'm going to play with this. So if you want to see more Winlink stuff, then subscribe to the channel, because we're going to do some more stuff. And then you can also look at the logs, which opens up your log folder, or you can go to the help menu, or you can go to the internet, or you can go to YouTube and find videos like this one. Hopefully it's helpful. But we're going to pick Telnet because it is really easy to get started, because you don't need a radio and you don't need to go through all of the radio type configuration stuff. Right now the goal is to get ourselves a Winlink account. So we just need to do that as quick as possible, as easy as possible, and this is it. I'm going to click on open session now that I have the session chosen as Telnet, and this pops up a box right here and it is ready for us to start. So I'm just going to click start and see what happens. And there we go. End of session. And when you do this, if you're doing it over the air, the Winlink protocol itself will handle identifying for you, so you don't have to worry about keeping in compliance with the FCC rules. That's all taken care of as part of the protocol, because some pretty smart guys wrote this software. And so I don't have any messages to receive because I've already been in the system, but this would be me doing my first send, my first time connecting to the system. So now we can come into my account and we can type in our call sign and we can type in our password and we can hit login. And then once we're logged in, there is this password change option here over on the left. So now you can type in your new password and you can hit change password. After you've got your password all changed, it is very important that if you didn't set up your recovery email address properly, that you get it set up properly. The space to do that is here in this same My Account part, post login. So let's go ahead and log in again. And then there is this edit tab here. So we click edit. And then when you scroll down, there's a place for you to put your internet-based email address right here. This is how you would do your password recovery. So it's very important to get this done. Once that's all done, you hit the save button, and now you have a recovery email. So in the future, when you come back, you can reset your password. If you just come down here and you type in your call sign, and you hit send my password, it will email that internet email account that we just showed you your password. And if you associate your call sign with my email, then I'm going to get your password reset, and I'm going to snoop in and look in your emails. So don't do that. So now that we have our password reset, we come into settings, Winlink Express setup, and there is the place to change your password. And then if you've done that, hit update. So now let's send a real message to the system. So message, new message. And this looks a lot like a regular old-fashioned email program. You can type in to, so you could send a message to me by typing in my user ID. You can send it to more than one person, so my buddy Jason, or my friend Dennis, or my friend Craig. So you can send it to all of these different people. And if you don't know anybody, or you just want to prove that your system works while you're trying to get everything set up, then you can send a message to test. You can also do carbon copy and whatnot. You can make attachments. Try and keep everything small. Try and send the smallest message possible. If you're trying to send a big file or a movie or a cookbook or something along those lines to somebody else, and you have a better, faster way of doing it, use that. because a lot of people are connecting to this over HTs or over limited bandwidth connections or over HF with old software at 300 bits per second, 300 baud. Nobody wants to download a picture, no matter how funny it is, at 300 baud. It's painful. So I'm going to type in the subject and say, hello world. And I'm not going to send any attachments. When this is done, you do this post to outbox at the top up here. This doesn't send it right away. It queues it up for sending later. So if I have 20 or 30 different messages that I want to send, what I really want to do is I want to put them all in the outbox where you can see it here. And then I want to hit open session and go. And because it's going to take time, like I just mentioned, to send a lot of messages, I'm going to go do something else while that's working. And Winlink is going to take care of retrying on packet failure, and it's going to take care of station identification for me. So everything is good, and when I come back, all of my messages should be sent. So I just sent this to test. I'm going to hit open session, and then I'm going to hit the start button. And we're still doing this over Telnet over the internet. So it has sent the message. You saw it disappear from the outbox, completed send of message, and everything's done, and it has disconnected. Okay. So because this is a test message, it should have sent that out. The system should have received it, and it should now send me that message back saying, here's your test, it worked. So let's hit start and see if that's the case. And there it is. New message for me, receiving message, end of session, messages received 1, messages sent 0, total bytes received 306, total session time 1 second, bytes per minute 10,983. And that's probably all the bytes for the entire session, since it was only 306 bytes for the message. Let's go back and look at our inbox. So now if we click on the inbox, you can see that same message ID I highlighted earlier. You can see that the sender is the service, the Winlink service itself. The recipient is me, and then the subject is test message. Test message is what the system received and replied with. My subject is down here below, hello world. There's my message ID, and it was sent through CMSB from KM9G. So we have now installed Winlink on our Windows computer. We have created a Winlink account. We have checked our email. We have reset our password. We have set our password recovery address. We have sent an email to ourselves. We have received that email from ourselves. In our next video, we're going to go and figure out some way to get this sent out over a radio. And this is where it gets to be really interesting, because each radio has some different little quirk that needs to be done in order to get it configured. And once you do have it configured, there's a whole bunch of different modes that you can use in order to get Winlink messages back and forth. So some modes work for some radios, some modes work for other radios, some modes are faster than other modes, and some modes you just can't use because you're not in an area where those modes can be used. Right now I'm in Arizona, and there isn't any way for me to send a message over 2 meters because there isn't any 2-meter Winlink gateways in the area. So we're going to have to get that fixed real quick. So in future videos, that's what we're going to do. We're going to set up a 2-meter Winlink gateway, and we're going to send messages to ourselves. So be sure you're subscribed to see that. In the meantime, there's a video right over here I think you might enjoy next. Thanks for being awesome. I'll see you over there.